Between January and February 1945, the 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment documented an unusual pattern in their after-action reports. 21 enemy casualties. Single engagement, single shooter. Duration: under 60 seconds. The German officer leading the counterattack was found with 2 pounds of lead in his chest. 30 rounds from an M1A1 Thompson, fired at a range you could measure in inches. The snow around him was black with blood. 89 other German soldiers dropped their weapons and raised their hands. The American who did this, he was laughing the entire time. Military historians have spent decades trying to understand what happened in that farmyard in Holzheim, Belgium. The mathematics don't work. 1 man, 90 enemies. A submachine gun pressed into his stomach. Every tactical manual says the same thing: surrender or die. First Sergeant Leonard Funk chose neither. This is the story of how a 5'5" store clerk from Pennsylvania walked into an ambush, started laughing, and turned a massacre into a legend. But to understand why Funk laughed, we need to go back 6 weeks, to a snow-covered field in Belgium where the rules of war died. December 17th, 1944. The Ardennes Forest. One day into what will become the largest battle the American Army fights in World War II, a convoy from the 285th Field Artillery Observation Battalion is moving south near a place called Bognes Crossroads when they encounter the spearhead of Kampfgruppe Piper, an SS armored battle group. The Americans are re-echelon troops, artillery observers, radio operators, truck drivers. They're not equipped to fight Panther tanks and armored infantry. After a brief exchange of fire, 113 Americans surrender. Hands up, weapons down. Prisoners of war. The Germans herd them into a farmer's field about 100 yards from the road. What happens next will change everything. The SS opens fire. Machine guns first, then rifles, then pistols for the ones still moving. The Germans walk through the field shooting wounded men in the head. Soldiers who try to run are cut down before they make it 10 yards. The shooting goes on for 15 minutes. 84 Americans die in that field. Some survive by playing dead, lying in the snow for hours with German boots walking past them, blood seeping into frozen ground. When darkness comes, 43 men crawl away and make it back to American lines. The news spreads through the American Army like wildfire. Within 24 hours, every unit in the Ardennes knows what happened at Montmedy. The Germans are executing prisoners. The SSE's murdering men who surrendered in good faith. Something hardens in the American soldiers after Montmedy. Before, there were rules. Unspoken, unofficial, but real. You fought hard, but when the situation became hopeless, you surrendered. Prisoners were treated according to the Geneva Convention. There was a grim professionalism between enemies. After Montmedy, those rules are gone. Some units pass down unofficial orders. No SS prisoners. American soldiers swear they'll never surrender to German forces. Not if there's any chance they're SS. Better to die fighting than to die on your knees in a field. Leonard Funk hears about Montmedy on December 18th. He's already seen too much. Normandy, Holland, months of combat across Europe. Friends dying in forests and fields. But this is different. This is cold-blooded murder of men who had surrendered, who had trusted the Germans to follow the rules. Funk makes a decision that day. He will never surrender to the Germans, no matter what. That decision will matter very soon. 6 weeks later, January 29th, 1945, the German offensive in the Ardennes has been broken. Now the Allies are pushing back, retaking the ground they lost in December. Company C, 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment, receives orders to capture a Belgian village called Hol. There's a problem. Company C is severely under strength. Weeks of combat in the Bulge have reduced the company to barely half its normal roster. The executive officer, second in command, was killed 3 days ago. They don't have enough men for a proper assault. Leonard Funk is now acting executive officer. At 28 years old, he's ancient by paratrooper standards. Most of the men in his company are barely 20, but Funk has something they don't: experience, steadiness, the kind of quiet competence that makes men follow orders, even when those orders sound insane. Funk looks at his depleted roster and makes a decision. He walks to the company headquarters area where the clerks, supply personnel, and cooks are working. These men normally never see combat. They've had basic training. Sure, but most of them haven't fired a shot at another human being since qualification range. "You're all infantry now," Funk tells them. "Grab your weapons. We're taking that village." He forms a makeshift platoon, 30 men who've spent most of the war behind desks and stoves. Funk doesn't care that they're green. He'll turn them into soldiers. The march to Holzheim is 15 miles through waist-deep snow. A blizzard is driving through the Ardennes, visibility down to maybe 50 yards. The temperature is 10 degrees Fahrenheit, well below freezing. German artillery shells explode around them, harassing fire from concealed positions on the flanks. Funk leads from the front, the way he always does. His boots are frozen solid. 2 of his toes have frostbite, turning black under the leather. Every step is agony. E ignores Italiano. They reach Holzheim. Around noon, the village is small, maybe 24 buildings clustered around a church. Germans are dug in throughout the town. Machine gun positions, rifle pits, a few Panzerschreck teams with anti-tank rockets. Funk organizes the assault. His clerks, his makeshift warriors, follow him into the streets. They clear the buildings one by one. Grenades through windows, rifle fire through doorways, close quarters fighting in cramped rooms. It's brutal, exhausting work. 30 German prisoners are captured in the initial assault. Another unit operating on the far side of town captures 50 more. 80 prisoners total, corralled in the yard of a farmhouse on the eastern edge of the village. Funk surveys his exhausted men. They've been marching and fighting for hours. There's still resistance in other parts of Holzheim. Scattered German soldiers who haven't surrendered yet. Snipers in buildings. A machine gun team that needs to be neutralized. He can only spare 4 men to guard the prisoners. Sergeant Howard Melvin and 3 others. "Keep temere," Funk tells them. "We'll send reinforcements when we can." Funk heads back into the fight, moving toward the sound of gunfire deeper in the village. Behind him, 80 Germans sit in the snow with their hands behind their heads. 4 Americans with M1 rifles stand guard. Nobody realizes what's about to happen. While Funk is clearing the rest of Holzheim, a German patrol approaches the farmhouse from the east. Approximately 20 men wearing white camouflage capes over their uniforms. The capes made from civilian bedsheets stolen from houses. In the driving snow and confusion, they look almost identical to American troops in winter gear. The patrol is commanded by Oberleutnant Werner Schaefer, a first lieutenant from the 352nd Volksgrenadier Division. Schaefer's unit was supposed to hold Holzheim, but they were overrun by Funk's assault. Now Schaefer sees an opportunity for redemption. The 4 American guards don't realize the danger until it's too late. The Germans are on them before they can raise an alarm. Schaefer's men overwhelm them quickly, disarm them, force them to their knees in the snow. Then they free the prisoners. 80 German soldiers, plus Schaefer's 20-man patrol. 100 men total. "Position the machine guns here," he tells his men. "When I give the signal, we advance on the church. That's where the Americans have their command post. We hit them hard. We can retake the entire village." The Germans organize quickly. This is what they're trained for. Durch. Retaking through surprise. German doctrine emphasizes immediate counterattacks against enemy forces that have just captured a position. Hit them before they can consolidate, before they can establish proper defenses. Schaefer checks his MP-40 submachine gun, a 32-round magazine locked in place. Around him, 100 German soldiers are loading weapons, fixing bayonets, preparing to attack. The 4 American guards kneel in the snow, hands behind their heads, waiting to die. That's when Leonard Funk walks around the corner of the farmhouse. Funk has come back to check on the prisoners. It's routine. Make sure the guards are okay, see if reinforcements have arrived, maybe get a count of how many prisoners they've taken. The fighting in the rest of the village is winding down. He has a few minutes. He rounds the corner and stops. The scene in front of him makes no sense. His 4 guards are on their knees. The prisoners, who should be sitting unarmed in the snow, are standing everywhere with rifles in their hands. German soldiers are organizing into assault formations. A German officer is giving orders. For maybe 2 seconds, Funk's brain tries to process what he's seeing. Then Schaefer spots him. The German lieutenant's eyes lock onto Funk's sleeve. First, Sergeant Stripes. This is a leader, a prize. Schaefer strides forward, covering the distance in 4 quick steps, and shoves his MP40 directly into Funk's stomach. The barrel presses into the thick canvas of Funk's field jacket, right below his ribs. Schaefer screams something in German. Funk has no idea what he's saying. He doesn't speak German. None of the Americans do. Schaefer screams again. Louder. His face is turning red, veins bulging in his neck. He's shouting the same word over and over, Ergebenen, surrender. Waffe fallen lassen, drop your weapon. Funk stares at him blankly. Schaefer screams louder, spit flying from his mouth. He's furious now. This American is refusing to comply, refusing to acknowledge the situation. Schaefer has 100 men, and this sergeant has nothing. Why isn't he? Funk looks around the farmyard. 100 Germans, most of them armed. His 4 men on their knees, disarmed and helpless. Private Angelo Crapanzano, standing beside him, equally helpless. The mathematics of survival are 0. There is no scenario where Leonard Funk wins this fight. He's outnumbered 100 to 1. A German submachine gun is pressed into his stomach. The sensible thing, the rational thing, is to surrender. Raise his hands, drop his weapon, become a prisoner of war. He'll probably survive. The war is almost over. Germany is losing. He'll spend a few months in a POW camp and then go home. But Funk remembers Momedy. 84 Americans murdered in a field. Shot like animals. Left to freeze in the snow. He's already decided he'll never surrender. So instead of complying, instead of raising his hands, Leonard Funk does something completely inexplicable. He starts laughing. Nobody knows exactly why Funk laughed. Funk himself couldn't fully explain it when asked decades later. In a 1988 interview for the Veterans History Project, he said, "I didn't plan to laugh. It was a reflex. He was screaming in German, and I didn't understand a damn word. Something about the whole situation just struck me as absurd. Maybe it was a deliberate tactic, a calculated move to confuse the enemy and buy time. Maybe it was stress. The human brain doing strange things when faced with certain death. Maybe it was genuine amusement at the absurdity of a German officer screaming incomprehensibly while shoving a gun in his stomach. Whatever the reason, the effect is devastating." Schaefer screams louder. Funk laughs harder. He bends over slightly, shoulders shaking, and calls out to his guards. I don't understand what the hell he's saying. Some of the German soldiers start laughing too. The tension in the farmyard is bizarre. Their lieutenant is turning purple with rage, and this American won't stop cackling. A few Germans exchange glances. What is wrong with this man? Schaefer is completely thrown off. This isn't how prisoners behave. They beg, they plead, they comply. They don't stand there laughing while you shove a gun in their stomach. For a few critical seconds, Schaefer doesn't know what to do. His training never covered this scenario, and Leonard Funk uses those seconds, still appearing to laugh, still acting like he's overwhelmed by the absurdity of the situation. Funk slowly reaches up toward his Thompson submachine gun. The M1A1 Thompson is slung over his shoulder, standard carrying position for paratroopers. The weapon weighs 10 pounds, cold steel and walnut. Schaefer watches. This is good. The American is finally surrendering his weapon. About time, Funk's hand closes around the pistol grip of the Thompson. He begins to unsling it, slowly, carefully. The motion looks like compliance. Schaefer relaxes slightly. He's about to have another prisoner, another trophy. Then Funk moves. In one motion faster than conscious thought, he swings the Thompson down and brings the muzzle into line with Schaefer's chest. His finger is already on the trigger. No hesitation, no warning. The M1A1 Thompson fires. The sound in the confined space of the farmyard is deafening. The Thompson fires 45 ACP rounds at 600 rounds per minute. A Thiess rain measured in inches. Each round hits like a sledgehammer. The bullets don't just wound. They destroy. The first burst catches Schaefer in the chest. 6 rounds, maybe 7, stitching across his torso in less than a second. The impact throws him backward. Blood sprays across the white snow, bright red against pure white. Schaefer is dead before he hits the ground. Funk doesn't stop. Can't stop. The moment he started shooting, he committed to killing everyone or dying himself. There's no middle ground. No surrender. No retreat. He pivots. Still firing. The Thompson sprays lead across the German soldiers nearest to him. Men scream. Men fall. Blood and brass casings tumble through the frigid air. The Thompson's 20-round magazine runs dry in seconds. This is the critical moment, the moment that separates the living from the dead. A Thompson submachine gun takes approximately 2 seconds to reload if you're practiced. 2 seconds to eject the empty magazine, pull a fresh one from your belt, slam it home, and rack the bolt. 2 seconds is forever in a firefight. 2 seconds is enough time for 100 Germans to kill 1 American. Funk's hands move on autopilot, muscle memory from thousands of hours of training. He yanks the empty magazine out, slams a fresh 20-rounder home, racks the bolt, and keeps shooting. The entire reload sequence takes less than 2 seconds, barely a pause in the gunfire. At the same time, he's screaming at his men, "Pick up their weapons! Pick up their weapons!" Sergeant Howard Melvin and the 3 other guards, still on their knees, scramble for the rifles the dead Germans have dropped. Seconds ago, they were prisoners waiting to die. Now they're fighting for their lives. The Germans are in complete chaos. Their officer is dead. The American who was laughing is now killing them. Machine gun fire is ripping through their ranks. Nobody gave orders for this. Nobody knows what to do. Some of them try to shoot back. Rifle shots crack through the farmyard. Bullets snap past Funk's head, close enough to feel the displacement of air. 1 round catches Private Angelo Crapenzano in the throat. The young soldier from Brooklyn goes down without a sound, blood pooling in the snow. Funk keeps firing, keep moving, keep killing. He's operating on pure instinct now. Target acquisition, trigger press, recoil management, pivot. Next target, the Thompson bucks in his hands, spitting fire and lead. His 4 guards have weapons now. They're shooting too, adding their rifle fire to Funk's submachine gun. The Germans are caught in a crossfire they never expected. Men are dying faster than they can react. Some Germans try to run. Funk cuts them down. Some try to fight. Funk kills them too. Some throw down their weapons immediately and raise their hands. Funk lets them live. The entire engagement lasts 60 seconds. Maybe less. When the shooting stops, 21 German soldiers are dead in the snow. 24 more are wounded. Some critically. The rest, more than 50 men, have thrown down their weapons and raised their hands. The prisoners are prisoners again. Leonard Funk stands in the middle of the carnage. Smoke rises from the barrel of his Thompson. Brass casings litter the ground around his boots. Blood is everywhere, steaming in the cold air. His ears are ringing from the gunfire. He looks at his men. Sergeant Melvin is still holding a captured German rifle, his hands shaking. The other guards are staring at the bodies, at the blood, at Funk. Funk ejects the magazine from his Thompson, checks the chamber, and slings the weapon back over his shoulder. Then he says, calmly, like he's commenting on the weather, "That was the stupidest fucking thing I've ever seen." The aftermath is almost anticlimactic. Company C finishes securing Holzheim. The surviving German prisoners, the ones who aren't wounded, are marched to the rear under much heavier guard this time. 12 men with loaded weapons. Nobody is taking chances anymore. Funk reports the incident to his commanding officer. Just another firefight. Just another day in the war. But the story spreads through the regiment within hours, through the division by evening, through the entire 82nd Airborne by the next morning. The sergeant who laughed at 100 Germans and killed 21 of them with a Tommy gun. When they search Oberleutnant Schaefer's body, they find something interesting. A map. Detailed positions of American forces in the sector, artillery emplacements, supply routes. Schaefer wasn't just planning to retake Holzheim. He was planning to pass intelligence back to German lines. The counterattack would have been devastating. Funk's laughter saved more than just himself and 4 guards. It saved the entire company. There's a brief, Investigation. Standard procedure when an American soldier kills that many enemy prisoners. Even in military police interview Funk, interview the guards, interview some of the surviving Germans. The investigation lasts less than a day. The evidence is overwhelming. The Germans had weapons. They had freed themselves. They were organizing an attack. Funk acted in legitimate, but the Medal of Honor recommendation is already moving up the chain of command. From company to battalion to regiment to division to corps. When it reaches Washington, nobody questions it. What Funk did at Holzheim is beyond dispute. The official citation will read, "He was ordered to surrender by a German officer who pushed a machine pistol into his stomach." Although overwhelmingly outnumbered and facing almost certain death, First Sergeant Funk, pretending to comply with the order, began slowly to unsling his submachine gun from his shoulder, and then with lightning motion brought the muzzle into line and riddled the German officer. He turned upon the other Germans, firing and shouting to the Americans to seize the enemy's weapons. September 5, 1945. The White House. President Harry Truman places the Medal of Honor around Leonard Funk's neck. The war in Europe has been over for 4 months. The war in the Pacific ended 3 weeks ago with the atomic bombs over Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Truman looks at Funk and says something that will become famous. "I would rather have this medal than be President of the United States." Think about that. The most powerful man in the world. The man who just ended the largest war in human history. The man who dropped atomic bombs and reshaped the entire global order. Looking at a 5'5" former store clerk from Pennsylvania and saying, "I'd rather be you." Because Truman understands something fundamental. Power doesn't matter when you have a gun in your stomach. Authority does unmatter when you outnumbered 100 to 1. What matters is what you do when death is certain, and surrender means dying anyway. Leonard Funk laughed. And then he killed. Let's count what Funk earned during World War II. Medal of Honor for Distinguished Service Cross for single-handedly assaulting and destroying 3 German anti-aircraft positions during Operation Market Garden, saving dozens of Allied gliders. Silver Star for leading 18 lost paratroopers through 40 miles of German-occupied France after bringing every single man home alive. Bronze Star for meritorious service. 3 Purple Hearts, wounded 3 separate times and kept fighting every time. Plus the Croix, the Guerre from France, the Order of Leopold from Belgium, the Military Order of William from the Netherlands, their equivalent of the Victoria Cross. Leonard Funk is the most decorated paratrooper of World War II. The war ends. Funk goes home to Pennsylvania. He doesn't write a book. He doesn't do the lecture circuit. He doesn't turn his Medal of Honor into a speaking career or a political platform. He doesn't cash in on his fame. He gets a job with the Veterans Administration, the VA, that massive bureaucracy responsible for taking care of America's former soldiers. Funk goes to work helping other veterans navigate the paperwork, processing disability claims, cutting through red tape for men who given everything and now needed help getting what they were owed. It's the same kind of work he did before the war. Quiet, unglamorous, necessary. For 27 years, Leonard Funk sits at a desk and helps veterans. He rises through the ranks, becomes division chief of the Pittsburgh Regional Office. Good salary, steady hours, a pension waiting at the end. His wife, Gertrude, is with him through all of it. They have 2 daughters. They live in McKeesport, Pennsylvania, a working-class neighborhood not far from where he grew up. The Medal of Honor hangs in a case somewhere in the house. He never talks about it. When people ask about Holzheim, about the laughing, about the Germans, he shrugs it off. "Did what I had to do," is all he ever says. November 20th, 1992, Leonard Alfred Funk Jr. dies of cancer at age 76. They bury him at Arlington National Cemetery. Section 35. Grave 2373. Among the heroes of every American war. At the time of his death, he's the last surviving Medal of Honor recipient from the 82nd Airborne Division in World War II. A fitness center at Fort Liberty is named after him. A highway in Pennsylvania bears his name. A post office in McKeesport was dedicated to him in 2023. But most people have never heard of Leonard Funk. They know Audie Murphy, the baby-faced soldier who became a movie star. They know Alvin York, the conscientious objector who became a warrior. They don't know the short, quiet paratrooper who laughed at death and killed 21 men in 60 seconds. Here's what the story of Leonard Funk actually tells us. War doesn't favor the big. It doesn't favor the strong. It doesn't favor the reckless or the fearless. War favors the ones who keep thinking when everyone else has stopped thinking. At Holzheim, Leonard Funk had every reason to surrender. The math was impossible. 100 against 1, a gun in his stomach. His men already captured. Any rational person would have given up. But Funk wasn't thinking about the math. He was thinking about Mamedi, about what happens when you surrender to the Germans. And he was thinking about his company scattered across the village, about to be hit from behind if these 100 Germans escaped. Soilish maybe, as attacked it. Maybe from stress, maybe because the whole thing really was absurd. And while the German officer was confused, while everyone was off balance for just a few seconds, Leonard Funk made his move. 60 seconds later, he was standing in a field of blood, alive when he should have been dead. Victorious when victory was mathematically impossible. That's not heroism in the Hollywood sense. That's something colder, something more calculated. That's a man who understood that survival isn't about following the rules. It's about recognizing the moment when the rules stop mattering and doing what needs to be done, no matter how insane it looks. The Thompson submachine gun that Funk used at Holzheim is now in a museum. The weapon that killed Oberleutnant Werner, Schaefer, and 20 other German soldiers in less than 60 seconds. If you look closely, you can still see the wear on the grip where Funk's hands held it. You can see the scratches on the barrel from months of combat. It's just a gun now, cold steel and old wood behind glass. But for 60 seconds in a farmyard in Belgium, that gun and the man holding it changed the course of a battle, saved a company, and proved that sometimes the only way out is through. Leonard Funk understood that. He understood it when the German officer was screaming in his face. He understood it when he started laughing. He understood it when he pulled the trigger. And that's why his laugh was the last thing those 21 Germans ever heard.